A major security breach has rocked Washington. A journalist was mistakenly added to a private chat where top U.S. officials were planning a military strike in Yemen. The Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, was unexpectedly added to a Signal chat involving top Trump administration officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Inside, he found classified details about an upcoming U.S. military operation.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence, we will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Goldberg saw real-time discussions about the strike, including weapon details, target locations, and exact timing, just 2 hours before the attack. When questioned about the breach, President Trump appeared surprised.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective, because the attack was very effective, I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
Goldberg says he received a connection request on Signal from an account that seemed to belong to National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Shortly after, he was added to a group chat labeled Houthi PC Small Group, where high-ranking officials discussed the strike in detail.
We have taken a step back and are pausing and reviewing all aspects of this relationship.
The leak has caused a political firestorm. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer called it one of the most stunning breaches of military intelligence in a very, very long time. Meanwhile, Republican Speaker Mike Johnson called it a mistake, but defended the official's actions. Democrats are demanding an investigation into how a journalist ended up in a classified military discussion. Even some Republicans, like Senator Roger Wicker, admit it's a definite concern.
On this text chain, conversations went at length about imminent military operations, including specific targets, weapons, and attack plans. These text messages very likely included classified U.S. intelligence. And the entire time, nobody seemed to realize that a private citizen without security clearance had access to this conversation. Mr. President, this is one of the most stunning breaches of military intelligence I have read about in a very, very long time.
One of the biggest revelations from the leaked messages is that Vice President J.D. Vance seemed hesitant about the timing of the attack. He warned of possible oil price spikes and questioned if the U.S. was bailing Europe out again. But after pushback from other officials, he ultimately agreed to proceed. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the operation, calling it highly successful and effective. Meanwhile, the National Security Council has confirmed the authenticity of the messages and is reviewing how the breach happened.